Oh, nice legs. Yes, thank you. Thank you. I had a feeling you'd be coming here, so I had to put the webcam down by the feet to cover it up. I also just realized I have been confusing Cuba and Colombia for like forever. I forgot that there was a difference. Cuba is the ex-communist country at the center of the Cold War. Colombia is like the plastic surgery cocaine place. Yeah, see, now I've got it straight in my head. Speaking of which, I had that story that I told on like the second video I posted, third video I posted to this channel when coming back. The one that I was talking about people like hitting me up online. And I think I said that the lady that was asking me if she could milk it was Cuban. I think I said that. No, she was Colombian. So it's freaks. It's the freaks from your country that are harassing me online. It's always the damn Colombians, I tell you what. All that cocaine and plastic surgery is making you guys horny as shit. There's an Airbnb that's adjacent to my house. And there were some people last night just going on and on. The renters of the Airbnb just yapping. In Spanish, of course. And I just yelled like as loud as I could from my room. Shut up! And they did. And then I realized how crazy that must have sounded. Because there is like nobody that speaks English here. The main thing preventing me from learning Spanish faster honestly has got to be the fact that I enjoy not hearing what people have to say. Italian food is overrated. Like the Italians that went to New York literally took all of the skill out of that country. I don't even think that Italy makes good supercars anymore like they used to. And neither is French food. French food ain't that good. You ever had an authentic Italian pizza? It's garbage. I have a business idea. A business idea where I will buy a big plot of land and get a bunch of holes dug into it. Right? Like very like concrete paved holes. You know, sort of like something you would drop into on a skateboard. And it's shaped just in just the right way. Maybe like 10, 20 feet in diameter. Shaped just in just the right way. Sorry, I'm stuttering. That you put a fat person right in the middle of it. And the only way that they could climb out is if they were significantly lighter. Like you optimize the hole so that only a 180-pound person could climb out of it. You gotta get a fat dude to run an ultra marathon by dangling a coupon in front of his face for gastric bypass surgery. Craniofacial development. Let's give the rundown. When children are breastfed, their tongues get stronger, right? Because they have to do the sucking motion. The stronger tongue allows them to hold it up to the top of the roof. Just like, as I will say. And this is necessary because it pushes up on the maxilla, which is the centerpiece of your face. It's the bone right in the middle of the face attached to your upper teeth. Zygomatic bones, everything. And if there's no pressure on that, then your face doesn't feel the need to grow outward. And if your face is growing outwards, your jaw also isn't either, right? Because if your teeth are interlocked, your facial development is like, yeah, we're good. Right? If everything sits correct to some level, you just don't give a shit. But every time a child with development has proper tongue posture, it pushes the front of the face out. The teeth become somewhat misaligned, right? Because it's so slow, the teeth then sit down on each other, and because of where they used to sit, it actually pulls the jaw forward a little bit, uses the stimulation to come forward, and that whole process brings the face out, makes the jaw stronger, gives enough room for all the teeth. I mean, most people don't have room in their mouths for the wisdom teeth anymore. And then all the teeth start bulging up from the crooked and whatnot. British people, for example. And another thing that can cause it is childhood obesity, because the fat literally pinches off the ability to breathe through the nose effectively, so they compensate by breathing through their mouth, and by proxy they get ugly. Also, your air that you breathe is filtered when you breathe through your nose. So we have nose hairs, nasal cavity, nasal microbiome that fights infections up there. So you're more likely to get disease infections and whatnot if you breathe through your mouth. So, become more prone to illness, bullshit like that, as well as tooth decay, because you need the saliva on your teeth, it's mineralized, it's what keeps your teeth healthy. The oxidization allows tooth decay. That's not good. So you got a bunch of crooked, rotting teeth. Hats going to bed. See you, brother. Peace out. But yeah, you end up with a bunch of crooked, rotting teeth that, as you say all the time, you look ugly, can't breathe properly. All because of one simple little bad habit. On top of all that, you're more prone to, like, if your teeth fully rot out, and it gets down to the nerves, you can get infections that literally get into your brain. That's crazy. Like, the downstream effects are actually wild. Also, tooth decay is caused by an STD. I bet you didn't know that one. Tooth decay is caused by a sexually transmitted disease known as Streptococcus mutans. 80% of the world has it. And Big Dental has not made a cure for it. They want your filling money. Hope one day humanity turns out to be just as I thought the world was. Just as I thought the world would be as a kid. Fair, just, kind, and moral. Well, I tell you what, the world as you saw it when you were a kid is the same world that you live in right now. You've just learned more. So that idea that you had as a kid never existed to begin with. But the good news is, you're in that world that you saw as a kid. I mean, as long as you believe that it's not those things, it won't be those things, because those things that you don't want to see, when you don't want to see something, you're still focused on it. So it's going to stand out to you. Like, God damn, the sun came up again. But by focusing on all the things that you don't want to see, you miss out on focusing the things that you do want to see. Like the fair, just, kind, and moral events, actions, and people that do exist. Per capita, it's relatively the same as when you were a kid. It's just getting yourself to notice those things. They're all there. They're all wonderful. I mean, bad things exist. But that doesn't mean that they didn't exist when you were a kid. And it's not like you have to ignore them. But it's like realizing that those things will exist no matter what. We wouldn't have any conception of the good things if we didn't have anything to compare them to. And we directly get to choose which one of those two things we increase in the world. This is you wouldn't believe this, but this is one of the main topics that I'm writing about right now. Like, the concept of the man who goes into life constantly hoping that the world will be as he thinks it should be. And this world as it should be just becomes this thing that doesn't exist in reality. And by comparison, reality becomes bleak and hostile, dark and dreary, a place where dreams go to die. But the thing is, if you consider any utopian vision with all of the trade-offs involved, it becomes just as horrible. But the thing about things that don't exist, things that you can't concretely imagine, like a utopia, is that because you can't fully imagine them, you don't have to think about the negative aspects because you can't conceive of them. It's part of the idea, is that they don't exist. That's why the idea can't be real. But it's also why it's so appealing. Because you're just like, oh, but what if? But then you put you use it as a big measuring stick next to reality, and reality doesn't measure up. When in all likelihood, it's exactly the same. That's how you're feeling, low-key? Yeah, I mean, we all feel like that. To some extent. We really do. Like, man, people should really just fucking stop doing this shit or that thing or this behavior over here. I mean, the topic of every philosophy book ever is, like, this thing that I think should happen, if it happened, that the world would be perfect. And it doesn't work. Because philosophy is like... The one quote that I love is that a philosopher is somebody with a misaligned view of reality that goes out of their way to justify why everybody should believe in that misaligned view of reality. I mean, we can't avoid it entirely. If we didn't think that things should be a certain way, we wouldn't strive to change things. So we need it. But if we always want things as they should be, and never focus on things as they can be, we might end up with a pretty damn bleak existence. Because the grass will always be greener somewhere else. There will always be a hair in the soup. There will always be something wrong with exactly where we're at. Because I can imagine it better, therefore it should be better. And therefore what I'm experiencing is bad. Right, something along those lines. What is this? It says it in the title, brother. I'm writing until the sun comes up. What exactly are you writing? Manifesto? Something of the sort. Although I'm pretty sure the definition of a manifesto is like relatively short. I'm working on a philosophy of a specific type of archetype. Whereas we have the idea of a type of man who goes through his life without ever having lived. And along with that comes behaviors that we're all susceptible to. Basically, that archetype is the subject of my writing. Trying to avoid the pitfalls on the path towards a life worth living. And it's more or less just a bunch of excuses that we make for ourselves. Right? We're all guilty of this. Allowing ourselves leeway. And every once in a while it gets a bit out of control. And as a result, we usually miss out on a large part of life. So, it's those little mental excuses that we make for ourselves. How we go about it, so on and so forth, that I'm really touching on the nose. So far, I've got about 900 pages of notes. It's going pretty well, I would say. Most of the ideas are there, but a lot of them need to be fleshed out. The structure is sloppy. Working on that. So, I mean, it's kind of a manifesto, but it's more or less like, have you lived, or in this case, not lived like this archetype, or are you doing guesswork? I have lived as this archetype. As a matter of fact, the whole reason I started this project is because I was the worst possible case of this archetype. And that screwed up my life in a bunch of ways. I have been surrounded by people that make those choices. And I've also gone to extreme lengths and taken a lot of chances to reverse that. I'm pretty sure, well, not pretty sure, I know. At my lowest point, I just chose to go homeless. Like, why the fuck not? Right? Like, oh, this motherfucker thinks his life is hard. I'm telling to myself in my head. So, let's see how he reacts when life is really hard. And it was a great experience. Right? There's no quicker way to feel alive than needing to do something to stay alive. I've got a fire under my ass. I try to do a lot of things, but mostly I realize that these patterns of behavior, they keep coming back. Even now, I'm very, very susceptible to them. And so if I can remove all of the excuses that I make for myself and write them out, create a framework, a process, a pattern of behavior that I keep falling into, right? Ones that I try to hide from myself through some sort of conscious ignorance, cognitive dissonance. If I can get that out onto the page, and I know it in depth, understand it, can explain it to somebody else, I have created an information hazard for that specific type of behavior. Right? I can no longer take those actions with any level of excuse. It forces the responsibility back onto me. And having that, if it's only just helpful for myself, then that's great. But I'm trying to form it in a way that I can explain it to others, get it as clear as I can, and hopefully be able to help others with it. I mean, obviously, I haven't lived to the end of my life, so some of it is guesswork. Has to be. I mean, all of philosophy is guesswork. I don't trust most philosophers because most of them just sat in a dusty room their whole life and never actually lived. They may have had a lot of authority and experience, but they were doing a fuck ton of guesswork. And I mean, the guesswork is factored into it also. Like, One of the things that I've written about the most is that we can't really be certain about everything. And most of life is guesswork. I mean, to put it very, very simply, we tend to give better advice. We tend to give advice that we aren't likely to act upon. Most people know what they're doing wrong with their life, but can't assume that second person perspective that they would be able to do for others. In a sense, that's what I'm doing for myself. Trying to just get it out on the table so that I'm able to kick myself in the ass. Can't Hurt Me by David Goggins. I read that back in 2021. And I shit you not, that book was the first book I had read since middle school. And it actually very likely sent me on this journey. I mean, I don't really even remember what it was about. As soon as I started delving deeper into the theory behind a lot of that stuff, I forgot the more surface level motivational stuff. But I mean, I might not be able to remember it that well, but it must have been a good book. But it wasn't actually until 2 years after I read that book that I managed to do anything beneficial to myself with that information. But I sometimes remember that story that he tells of him, like, imagining him going up to heaven. And God shows you the image, the life of the person you could have been if you had just gotten your shit together. And saying, well, that was your chance. That's it. It's over. That's what you could have been, and now you can't have that. I've found that same story in different forms throughout history, throughout philosophy, all over the place. And every single time it hits like a brick. Like Nietzsche's recurring existence. Like the concept is like, if you were forced, like if you had to face the reality that every time you died, you had to relive the same life over and over and over, step by step. If you came to this realization, the most likely scenario is that you would try to live a life that's worth repeating over and over and over again. So there's another version of it. And then there's the thought experiment, like, if you were God, like if you had control over absolutely anything you can imagine, what would you do? And it goes along the lines of, right, complete indulgence. You would just do whatever the hell you wanted to all the time. And then it crescendos off where that gets boring. And like all of the most exciting fantasies can no longer satisfy you. If you were this all-powerful being, you'd probably, after all of that, after 1,000 years doing that, you'd probably end up making yourself, putting yourself into something exciting enough to satisfy the void that's left. Which the guy who wrote the thought experiment said you'd probably make it so there were threats to your life. You'd probably put a lot of challenges in front of yourself. Pitfalls, ways that you could die, high stakes. And then you'd want to forget about all of this. Memory wiped clean. And eventually what you get is like, if you give somebody the ability to play around with the thought of being a god for long enough, they're going to eventually get so boring that the most exciting thing that they could do is what they could be doing right now, tomorrow, yesterday. If you don't believe someone else's advice can affect a person, why write a book? Why bother in general? If that's the case, nothing can truly change. It's all deterministic. Oh boy, I have a lot to say about determinism. Fuck that shit. Someone else's advice can affect a person. But that's not what I'm trying to do. I'm not trying to affect other people. At most, offer a second perspective. Because what a lot of people don't get nowadays is a second perspective. Like a lot of the narratives around the way that we talk to each other, it's framed in a way that directly reinforces or directly opposes another person's point of view. Giving a nuanced perspective takes time, and a lot of people aren't willing to do that. I think a lot of issues arise when we are primed to view the perspectives of others as true or false. And that's a generalization. I know that we do that. But it is kind of a rule of thumb. I'm trying to create a perspective that can be absorbed, for lack of a better term, regardless of what you think about it. But I really think that the most beneficial change people are going to have is the change that they decide to make, not the change that they're advised to make. A lot of self-help books tell people to do things, and people can do things, but eventually they're going to land on the realization that they're going to find something else that helps them a little bit better that they came up with. And it takes a while to realize that you can't just listen to advice in every situation and know what to do through that. You have to be able to build the skill to recognize what you are willing and able to do. And that's also part of it. Are we talking about determinism as the absence of free will, or determinism as causality? Because I'm thinking of like Robert Sapolsky type determinism. The guy who's like, if you weren't born as a 7-foot black person, you don't have the free will to be an NBA star, and therefore free will doesn't exist. Honestly, like, no amount of rationalizing can convince me that free will doesn't exist. I'm not gonna lie. Everything has to be deterministic at some level. We just aren't at the level of determining humans. I mean, the day that we figure out that everything works, that's a long, long way away from here. I mean, first of all, we gotta find everything. That is up and down. It's more likely that we see the heat death of the universe than we get absolute proof of the way things work. I mean, even determinism is just a best guess. No matter how educated. It's just a best guess. We're all working with best guesses here. The real kicker is, how do we use that best guess? Like, how well do we use it? Are we happy, content with our life? Well, great. The perspective works. If not, try something else. Yesterday was the future of 2 days ago, but it is hard shown past now. Therefore, yesterday was determined, just not for us in this plane of time. Not really. I mean, by that logic, there's a lot of determined days, and yet we can still not look at any single day that passed and say for certainty what happened, because memory is fallible. And we don't have enough video footage and methods of recording data to know. No matter what lengths we go to say that something is certain, all it takes is a really well rationalized nuh-uh to destroy the consensus entirely. I mean, hey, like, doesn't mean it's, yeah, it doesn't mean it isn't deterministic. But the funny thing is, that's the way that all things are. It's just whatever you choose to believe in. We can't prove determinism. There's a good case for it that a lot of people believe. There's also a good case for why a lot of people don't believe it. A lot of people have really great reasons to believe in God. A lot of people have really great reasons not to believe in God. Every single system of thought, you can't prove it, but we choose to. We choose to say something about this is self-evident. Topic of chapter 1. Something about this belief is self-evident. We all reach that point where we say, you know what, I don't need to explain myself any further. The rest of you guys are full of shit. If we can recognize that we're doing that, there's no big deal. Like, if we can get to the point where we understand what sort of belief allows us to best live our life, that's it. That's the explanation we need. This makes sense to me. This coheres with my version of reality. That's a really good reason to believe in something. But that doesn't mean that you can prove it 100%. Doesn't mean that you can't disprove it. I mean, it doesn't mean that you can disprove it. Like, that's the funny thing. Is that at the basis of everything that we believe to be true at some level, there lies some funny detail that you can't quite prove and you can't quite disprove. I mean, hey, we've all got it. Faith is like an asshole. Everyone's got one. Some people don't want to think about it, and some people can't stop playing with it. It really comes down to that. At the end of the day, everyone shits. Anyhow, in the 6 hours I've been here, I've had time for one piss break. I'm gonna take another. It's high time. I'll be back. You guys can keep laying down messages, though. Don't feel like you gotta stop. You'll send me that link. I'll watch it right now. I don't know if you guys saw that, but I was being really careful in getting up because there's something I needed to go do. And then I stood up, smacked my head on the ceiling fan, and then stepped on the cable for my laptop. And it fell the fuck. Dude, I gotta bend time and have 21 days in a week. I just want to get a whole ass aquarium for free. So there's this apartment that was trashed. I know these people in real estate here. And this apartment that was trashed that people were forced to move out of because they were renting. I basically offered to repaint it for them. I made a bunch of money on that, by the way, because nobody paints here. This was just sitting there. The people that were in the apartment left it. It was old and moldy, but I mean, like, I was like, I see the vision. So I just grabbed it. No one was coming back for it. And if they were, they're sorely disappointed. Suicide's so fucking gay, dude. Here we see a wild twink in his natural habitat. Dude, you guys gotta stop calling me a twink. It's just because I'm wearing the Carhartt. Hang on. Just gotta hit the auspicious lat spread while sitting. Twink to wife beater. Yeah, pretty much. Okay, I gotta watch. Let's see this. How do I manipulate time for 21 days in a week? Stack it up over a month and I'm gonna kick your butt. Stack it up over a month and you're toast. Stack it over a year. My whole life is different. If you catch me not exploiting time, that's not me. There's an imposter among us. Hang on, guys. I need to show you guys something. We've got a handful of you dudes in the stream, but it only has 2 likes. That's right, gang. It is time to like and subscribe to the video. Make sure you send this video to your favorite politician attached with a death threat. Post on 4chan where the guy says he's attracted to boys with vagina. That's a woman. What? God's chosen femboy. Not sure it was God's choice. Maybe he allowed it, but I doubt it was his choice. You know, kind of like how he allowed Satan to kill Job's entire family and ruin his life. I think it was a situation more like that. Bro ironically said Petersonian. Dude, anybody who has a Petersonian way of thought? Well, you see, it's really, the lobsters come out, and then because the lobsters can't get any underwater cooch, the lobsters, no conch, they really just become dangerous, you know? Peterson's gone a little bit off the rails, but his earlier work is kind of good. No, I don't think Peterson gave it that name. In fact, I think when people started referring to it like that, that's when he just snapped. Imagine a strict diet of beef and painkillers. The strands under my skin are actually government wires.
They're listening through the wires. Listening through the wires of my arms. Tomorrow, quick. Get me the grass clippers. I had to get these wires out of my mom's. Get it before mama come home. They can't listen. Wires ain't in there.
See, these ones are breathing. These ones are alive at the moment. There's just little guys in the walls poking their finger through a hole to make the paper move. That's all it is. I've hired 20 Indians to stand behind this wall and gently poke the papers forward. I mean, if you don't pay them, then they'll just yell at you. I mean, what do the Indians in your walls do? Oh yeah, they'll go back to sleep. They won't be with us very long. There's places they need to go, but they can't do it while they're here. Not while they're alive. No money for Marlboros. Too many Indians, not enough chiefs. Just this black dude out of nowhere working at a car rental place. He's like, dude, you got dick sucking lips. I'm like, what the fuck? Agua purificada. Datos de nutrición. 11 raciones por envase. Tamaño por ración. 12 ounces fluid. Cantidad por ración. Calorías, 0. Grasa total, 0. Sodio, 0. Carbohidrato total, 0. Proteínas, 0. Tamaño por ración, 12 ounces fluid. Cantidad por ración, calorías. Just hit 3,000 words. Let's go. Everybody clap. Round of applause in the chat. All one viewer. Thank you, Eurofan. You are here for the 3,000 word mark. Okay. It's about time I made coffee. The sun's starting to come up. It's almost 6 in the morning. Need to feed the cat. You know what that means, guys. Outro music slowly starts to fade in. Plugs all the socials. Thanks, people, for coming around. Looks at the camera. Says, until next time, my fags and females. I'm signing out.